Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Keeping Bare Arms podcast. I'm Barrett and this is
Dan.
And we are coming to you from beautiful Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, where it is finally sunny and nice outside, so we figured we'd try to change the pace and bring it outside.
Yep.
And we are here to talk about holsters, are we not?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and why are holsters important? Why can't I just stick the gun in my pants?
Well, the holster does a number of things. First and foremost, we spend so much time talking about which firearm is best for concealed carry, which one is better than this one better than this one is why. And we look so much at the firearm, and then we never really look at it as, how am I going to carry that firearm? Mm-hmm. Or what can I do with that firearm? And the holsters play a big part in being able to carry concealed, because that's what we're talking about. And the holster does a number of things for us. Its primary purpose is to retain the firearm on you. When you have a holster, or when you have a firearm, and you just stick it in your belt, like you're saying, there's edges, there's all kinds of stuff hanging off it, and levers and things, and this can get really uncomfortable to carry day in and day out if this is your primary carry method. The more uncomfortable it gets, the more likely it is that you're not going to want to carry it that much anymore. Mm-hmm. And now you're basically on a comfort level, you're leaving your protective means at home. So carrying a holster is a way to help with your software. Say, I am going to carry this hardware as we go through our life, and actually be able to have this thing on you. In the grand scheme of things, it is so that we can retain this firearm on our person. Mm-hmm. So
it doesn't fall out. I mean, I could conceivably pick this pistol up and just stick it in my pants, and it's fine if I don't move. But when I start moving around, or if I start I'm going to go somewhere, it's going to start rubbing up against me and working its way free, and God forbid fall out of my pants, and then I'm in a whole another world of trouble.
Yep.
But it's not that professional either. not that finished. And when there's so many other good choices and good holster solutions out there, there's really no reason to be sticking it in the pants.
Correct. And I think one of the most important features of a firearm or a holster is to protect the trigger area. Like you said, you can carry it just by sticking it in your belt, but that trigger area is entirely unsupported. You can see this right here. I'm using a blue gun for demonstration purposes, but we want to make sure that this trigger area is covered. So when we put this in here like this, a good holster will cover that trigger area up. That helps prevent negligent discharges, basically unintended actuation of the trigger, which a lot of modern firearms only have an internal safety, so it will go off if the trigger is actuated as designed, and this prevents that from happening. So that is one of the main reasons that a holster is so important. The other thing is, the holster is when you can mount something on your body in such a way that it's going to stay put, unlike just Mexican carry where it can move around. When you put a holster on your body, because it can stay put, you can control the level of concealability you have. A lot of people will pick a smaller firearm, or they'll pick a something with a lot less capacity than they feel they need, because that's what they can conceal. But with we'll talk about it in a minute, but with the proper clothing and the proper methodology, you can make a very large firearm highly concealable. So what we want to do here is look at different ways that the holster can help us with our concealability strategy.
All right, as you can see, we've changed for the better, I hope. Yep. In talking about holsters, we invariably come to the point where we talk about concealment, and that's why we put on a jacket and a shirt, and we're going to talk about how it is we're going to wear our holster and our pistol on our person. And the first step that I discovered long ago was key and critical to carrying a pistol, if you're going to carry it on the waistband, is a good belt. It is important that you get a belt that has stiffness to it, that's thick. Its purpose is for carrying a pistol on it.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many other belts I've gone through before I discovered that problem, or for carrying off duty and carrying concealed. I was ruining a lot of good expensive belts, and my wife went through my closet and goes, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going to buy you some good belts," and because I'm so used to wearing just the duty belt. But it needs to be of a thicker gauge, and a sufficient strength to carry the pistol that you are going to carry off duty or concealed.
A lot of people are really dismissive of a good gun belt, a purposely built gun belt. A lot of people will say the belt I've got from Kohl's works fine. No, it doesn't. It's just what you know. If you go and you get a purposely made belt for concealed carry, you will see a world of difference. The belt I got when I first started, there's a number of them on there on the market right now, and you can pick something more tactical, you can pick something more discreet. I ended up going with one. It was like beltman.net. I think he's out of business now, and this belt was probably a good, I don't want to say a 1/4 inch thick, but pretty darn close to it, and it's probably closer to 3/16 of an inch thick leather. And for the first 4 or 5 months I was wearing this belt, it felt like I was putting on a hula hoop because it would be stiff, and I would actually have to like kind of bend this thing to go around me. And as I was practicing drawing and stuff like that, this belt allowed my holster and everything else to stay in place. Which is ultimately what we're going for. When we draw a pistol, we need the holsters to stay in one place while we draw the firearm out to another place. Okay?
And pulling your whole pistol out, your whole pants above your head.
You don't want your pants and your belt and your holster and everything else going for the same ride. You want to be able to get this out, draw it up, and produce your firearm like this. And you want to be able to, when you pull that, you don't want all of this riding up. You want everything to pretty much stay still as you go around and do this. All right, so do not underestimate the quality or the reliability of a belt that is purposely made for this. The stuff they sell in department stores are not made for this. They're made to hold your pants up, and now we are asking a belt to do double duty, hold your pants up, and do all of this extra stuff. So
and
get
guys like us holding the pants up is a duty in and of itself. But
right, yep. They don't have suspenders, tactical suspenders.
Actually, they do.
Oh, sweet. We're maybe that'll be
the next podcast 7.
Yep. And from there, we need to really go into our clothing. We tell our CPL students when they come and take classes from us that your belt, your holster, and your clothing all work together as a system for concealability, as well as the pistol, obviously. And these things all have to work together. They all have to be purposely made so that you can go out and concealed carry. It does take a little bit of wardrobe adjustment at first, but eventually you find your way and you figure out what works for you. So obviously it's a spring day, it's still a little bit chilly. I've got my t-shirt on and I've got this dumb fleece jacket on, and you cannot tell that I am concealed carrying. But it is literally right here, as we saw earlier. I can zip this up if I need to, stuff like that. So this is working as a system for me right now because I'm just standing around here doing a podcast. Some of the other things to consider is, like Bear's is wearing a fairly busy shirt here.
Fairly busy.
For concealed carry, it's busy, dude. For concealed carry, darker colors help hide printing, and busy patterns help hide printing. So as you can see, this shirt right here, because of its visual busyness, you're not going to be able to see the concealed pistol nearly as easy.
This is a full-size SIG 226 as well. Better at concealing full-size pistols because I'm a full-size guy, unfortunately, but it doesn't always work as planned sometimes, but this particular setup does work for me.
Yep.
And it is a matter of what works for you. One thing you will quickly discover is that it's seasonal. Winter months are very easy for concealed carriers. We can put on a sport coat, or we can put on a sweater, we can put on a heavy overcoat, and no one's the wiser. As the weather gets warmer, it gets more difficult to actively and effectively conceal your pistol, especially a full-size pistol. So these are all things that you'll come to understand, and how the clothing of the seasons affect the clothing you're going to be wearing for concealing your pistol.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things I found in the summer that works well for me is a t-shirt, with a light shirt unbuttoned over it.
Could be something like this.
It's basically something like that. It's a little bit kind of an old man style now. It's a little bit out of style, but who cares?
But give it some time.
It'll be back in style, yeah.
I'm sure the hipsters are into that.
Yep. So, it's not impossible to carry year-round, and it's certainly, if you start tailoring your wardrobe and everything else to this purpose, it becomes like second nature to knowing exactly what is and what isn't concealable. The other thing to consider when you're picking out a holster is essentially your protection strategy around what you need your holster to do for you. In this case, we're talking about accessibility of that firearm. We've all seen police officers walking around the street and they have a duty rig with the pistol usually openly carried, strong side, so that they can get at very easily. If you are a driver, let's say you're an Uber driver, or a truck driver, a taxi driver, or whatnot, and you need to have this pistol on you, strong side probably isn't going to do it, because while you're sitting in your car seat, you can't really get your elbow behind there to get this thing out. Okay, so if you go into that type of role, you need to start looking at a cross draw holster, which the holster might be here on your hip, and you can pull it out this way and produce it. The other thing you might want to look at is a shoulder holster, which Bears has got here. It keeps the shoulder or the pistol up on the torso, makes it very easy to reach around and get. These are especially good if you're sitting down for your job, or you can't get up, like if you are operating a vehicle or something like that. It makes it really easy to produce this weapon should you really need it.
It's also very important that you practice with how it is you're going to carry. Like Don said, if you are in a industry or a field that you are going to be sitting all the time, you're in a car, a truck driver, what have you, while it is possible to pull the pistol out from your hip, it's not easy. It can be done with practice, given the confines of a car or a vehicle. And if you're going to opt to wear a shoulder holster, and I've got this rig on here, I've had this for a while, I'm really not too partial to shoulder holsters myself, but it's good for demonstration purposes. If you're going to carry this way, you need to know how to draw the pistol and how to daily carry with it in this setup.
Yep.
So practice how you're going to carry, make sure it works for you, and don't be stuck in the rut where I bought this setup, I got to learn how to use it properly, because if you buy it and you realize it doesn't work, you don't feel comfortable with it, it's not fitted to you properly, don't try and mold yourself to the rig. Go get some other leather, get something else that's going to work better for you. Okay, the last thing you want to do is be caught in a life or death situation or a critical incident and you just don't have comfortable or effective equipment on you.
Yep. And if you end up with a drawer full of holsters for one pistol, you're not alone. I think we all have those. Going into what Bear said with what works for you and what doesn't, is you also need to look at your total self-defense strategy or your personal protection strategy. There's ankle holsters, there's a lot of different places to put a firearm on you, and let's say you're like this world champion Taekwondo person, and kicking is a big part of your personal protection strategy, and you're well trained at it. An ankle holster is probably not the best choice for you, because you're taking that firearm and putting it on something that is one of your protective weapons, your leg, right?
Watch it just go shooting right down the hole.
Yeah. Yep. So if you're really adverse to shooting anyone and you happen to carry this, and running away is your top goal, which is, it's a viable strategy in most cases, an ankle holster while running is a little bit on the awkward side. So maybe this one isn't what is best for you. Okay, so when picking your holster, pick what works for you. Okay, pick what works for your entire protection strategy, not just I bought this, therefore I must make it work. Okay.
All right, so now we've talked about the holsters in general, and we talked about your protection plan, how you plan on wearing your holster. We talked about concealability in terms of clothing. Now we're going to talk a little bit about materials, what are holsters made out of. And there are several different types of holsters. out there, or materials out there for holsters, and we have a couple out here that we're going to talk a little bit about. First, let's talk in terms of the traditional leather holster here. We've got here, this is a leather holster that just basically, it's worn on the belt, okay? Its retention is, it's got a snap, all right? And it fits snugly against the body. It's made for right-hand carry, so this one in particular is going to fit well on the right-hand side. One thing you'll note about this holster is the stitching, okay? It took basically two pieces of leather, and you can see it right here, okay? And put it together, molded it, and stitched it together. Now, this is not always the most ideal type of holster, because after a lot of wear, it can start to come apart. The stitching can start coming apart, and this holster can split, so that's something you should be aware of. Next, we have Kydex. Kydex has appeared on the market, it's rather recent. It's been around for a couple, at least about 10 years or so, maybe more. I may be wrong on that, but this is a molded hard plastic, basically, material, and this particular setup is also, again, in the waistband. Okay, this is a left-hand side carry. This would fit, and the belt would go through here, and snap to, and body side, outside. The advantage of the Kydex is it is very strong, very durable. It has protects the gun in entirety here, and there's also a retention level to it. There's a kind of a snap when it gets into place. Okay, whereas the leather holster was fairly loose. The gun could fall out of it were it not snapped. The gun will not fall out of this holster. Okay. Moving on, we have a different type of material here. This happens to be a band holster. Okay, this is one with a snub nose 38 in it. This would be something that would fit underneath clothing and close to the body. I just use this as an example. It's a knit material, a fabric material, I should say, and it has Velcro. This would wrap around the body and be worn around the belly or the torso. Next, we have this is kind of a cross. There's leather holster here, and there's also plastic for that retains the pistol. Okay, this is obviously a left-hand side pistol or holster. The pistol would enter here, and this leather goes up against the body. Again, this is also this is an inside the waistband setup. The pressure from the body and the belt on the outside is going to keep that pistol in place. This particular model, I believe, is for the USP. Do I have it here? This is right here. This is the right one. Okay. USP. This is a 45 compact, and you can see how that fits right in there. Okay. The leather again is going to be up against the body and protecting you from the sharp edges on the pistol. Okay. And a full leather pistol here. We'll deal with this one real quickly here. Just for funsies, this is actually a holster for a 44 Magnum pistol. This is an example of an old school leather. There's nothing wrong with this type of material. It's good for carrying a pistol. This particular one, again, a 44 Magnum, large frame revolver. Definitely not something you can do concealed. It's going to be on your hip, exposed and open. All right, we've talked a lot about holsters for your pistols. Now we're going to change gears here and talk a little bit about accessories. If you made the decision to carry a pistol and you have your concealed pistol license and you're going to be carrying concealed, you should consider getting a holster for the accessories like magazines. We have here, this is a holster for SIG magazines. Two of them. I've got one actually on my pistol, but it's important that you test out this type of accessory, just like we explained how you should test out the other holsters for your pistol. If you have a wheel gun, if you got a revolver, you should have extra speed loaders on you as well. The chances that you are going to need to reload in a violent encounter are slim, but remember we do train for situations in which the worst possible, you train for the worst possible scenario. But at the same time, these are mechanical devices, and while they are very reliable and failures of catastrophic failures that render them inoperable are pretty rare, they can fail. So having a backup, having a spare magazine on your person is not a bad idea. It's a good way to go. And if you should choose to do that, you should practice reloads as well. You know, if you're going to carry a pistol and you're going to carry a magazine, in this case it's a paddle holster. I'm just going to put it right here. And this is not the ideal concealed rig, and this is just for demonstration purposes. But if you should be working with your pistol, you need to practice reloading drills. You know, when you drop that magazine, you have to practice reloading. Okay. It's very important that you get comfortable with it. It's very important that you get comfortable with not only the pistol holster, but your accessory holsters as well. Okay. And remember, we train for critical incidences. And like I said earlier, the chances that you are going to need to reload during a violent encounter are slim, but the chances of your equipment malfunctioning are slim. But why take the chance? You need to be prepared for the contingencies.
So now we talked about the personal protection strategy earlier. We also talked about, you know, accessibility and stuff like that. At this point, we need to talk about the locations that you can wear your firearm and your holster. And we assume that you have narrowed these down based on the accessibility needs that we already talked about. So a lot of the places you can wear around your belt would be strong side, support side. A lot of people call it cross draw, where you come out and you can actually cross. And then there's appendix carry. Around the belt, you also have inside the waistband and outside the waistband considerations. This one here is a outside the waistband. You can see it if I move this cloth. And then there's inside the waistband, where all you would actually be able to see is the firearm sticking out. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. So strong side is the method of carry where the firearm is on your predominant hand. I am left-handed, so it's on my left-hand side. And what makes this so popular is that it is, because it's on my strong side, I can get right to it. I do need some elbow room back here to be able to get to it, but I can flick my coat back or whatnot and I can get this down. My weak side hand can move fabric out of the way, it can do whatever else, but the idea is my strong side, I'm able to get this out, draw it up, and get right on target right away. All right, that's one of the advantages of strong side.
So the drawing is very fluid.
The drawing is very fluid, yeah, and it is very highly accessible. You know, just reaching back here, you know, outside the waistband makes it incredibly accessible. Inside makes it slightly less accessible, but it's not really that bad because this whole part of the firearm sticks out of your belt, which we'll be showing in just a minute. Support side is you have the firearm on the opposite side. It would normally be in a holster, but you've got it on the opposite side here, and you are reaching across to cross draw and you're coming out and getting on target. It is not a bad way to carry. A lot of places won't let you train this way because it is an inherent risk as you pull this out and sweep.
I just got swept right there.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're going to cross draw, you got to learn to draw it, get it out on target, and bring it up like this, which is a little bit extra movement to actually get this thing on target. And in the heat of a violent encounter or something like that, it might not be possible to work it that safely. So there is a little bit of a disadvantage in cross draw, but if it's what you need, like if you're a driver or something like that, and you need to be able to get across and get this thing on target, that might be the best for you. All right. There's appendix carry, which is becoming very, very popular. Appendix carry basically is this firearm is right in front. Normally there would be a holster here, but it is right in front, and it is nice and easy to get to. The other advantage is there's not a lot on your sides here to print. It's very non-printable. With this thing right here, it just blends in with your person, especially if you're wearing a busy pattern clothing or something like that. One of the real advantages to Appendix Carry is as you draw, you're coming out and you're coming straight on target. So this position stool is used a lot in firearm training. It's a means to have the firearm out, muzzle pointed in a safe direction, and it's controlled by staying in this position. You're controlling where your hands are, you're controlling where the firearm is, and it's displayable for everyone to see. So they can see that you're being safe, and you can see that you're being safe. With Appendix Carry, as this comes up to here and comes out, it's a very natural position to start shooting from. All right, so a lot of places you will shoot, you don't see any more threats, you'll come back here, give it a few more minutes before you decide you're going to reholster. You see another threat and you can engage from that position very easily. All right, so Appendix Carry is great because it does let you come up into this position right here and push out. All right.
Again, in the case of Appendix Carry, you will be obviously wearing something over the pistol in terms of concealability. It is something that's caught on a little bit more so because people have difficulty with wearing a pistol on the side and going through their everyday life. You get in and out of a car, you're going to find out very quickly that you're bumping into things, or this is getting caught on a seat belt, or it's getting turning into the back of your seat, or you're just getting stuck in that space between the seats sometimes. So this is a viable option. It's not personally something that I deal with too much, but it's all comes down to what it is that works best for you. So don't discount it as an option.
Yep. There's smaller back carry, which is kind of waning in popularity a little bit. Essentially,
that was, I think, the one that I remember the most. You see Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Sticking that gun in the back of his
yep.
small of his back.
Yeah. So since that went off the air, you don't do it anymore. Smaller back carry has some advantages. You are able to see the area in front of you, which is nice. Anyone looking at you does not see the firearm because it is hidden behind your body. Some disadvantages to it though is you can't see what's behind you, and if someone happens to see you and you're printing or something like that, they might be able to get hands on that firearm before you can stop them. It's also very hard to retain a firearm from behind.
You can get pretty much these inside the waistband holsters can still be utilized in the small of the back carry. You can use pretty much everything you see out here effectively, save for the outside paddle holsters. Those would be far too bulky. So you can still do behind the back or small the back carry with holsters. However, you'll quickly realize that if you have to sit, suddenly that gun is now protruding up the back, and it's not comfortable to deal with.
Yep.
So if you're always in an upright position, perhaps this is the way to carry for you. But
yeah. That's another thing. If you've got to bend over and get something,
see right there.
It's right there. But the fabric, when you bend over, plumbers, one, it's going to make it a little bit more noticeable, and two, when the fabric, when you straighten back up and all that fabric wants to roll back down and into place, it's going to hang up on that firearm. Mm-hmm. So you could possibly be completely exposing your firearm and not realizing it. And so you're always sitting there and you're doing this and you're making sure your shirt's good, because you can't see back there to confirm it. So if it's right for you, it's right for you. I'm not going to say don't do it. We'd rather people be armed and safe, but it has some significant drawbacks, and it is fairly situational.
You need to weigh the pros and cons. You need to test that out and see what works for you.
Yep. Shoulder holster, which we did talk about earlier. Shoulder holsters are great if you're in a seated position most of the day. You need to be able to access that firearm. Essentially, shoulder holsters are cross draw by design. You reach across your body and you pull this firearm out and produce it and shoot. And again, when shooting from a shoulder holster or any cross draw, you have to be aware of your muzzle discipline. You don't want to sweep while you're doing that. And it is a little bit more unnatural to get on target, because as you're coming around, you are doing this sort of thing, and you kind of have to get this wobble around your target, whereas if you're a straight draw, you're punching right out into your target. So with a cross draw of any type, it becomes hard to get punched out on your target. And with all that muzzle discipline and coming out, you've really got to be able to practice that quite a bit.
I say, the shoulder holster has its uses, especially if you have a lot of stuff on your belt and you are in a position where you are in a car, as Don used that example. It's a good way to keep access to the pistol, and when drawing from the hip or drawing from the strong side is not as an option. Additionally, typical shoulder holsters that will come with the opposite side of the gun. It'll have a pouch for 2 magazines or at least a reloads. So that's an advantage.
Yeah, it is
worth talking about.
Yep. All right. Next up is ankle holster. We did talk about a little bit about that earlier. I don't happen to have one to be able to demonstrate it, so you just have to listen to us talk about it. But ankle holsters are, they're primarily used for a backup firearm.
Yeah.
Usually a smaller firearm. This is a things have really gone bad type situation, and I need this backup gun.
I would say this is a 357 snub nose, and probably the largest frame revolver I would use for an ankle holster. And you can get smaller than this, and there are automatics out there on the market, 380s, and that are even a little smaller than that. That'll be good, but ankle holster is not something you're going to want to do.
Correct.
Even compact pistol is going to be hard to carry. It's
Yeah.
got to be subcompact.
Yeah. Ankle holsters, you must stop to be able to access them. You can't move and draw. Ankle holsters they're difficult to produce, to produce that firearm. Like, you have to stop, but you also have to bend down. You have to kneel to get it, and it takes a little bit more time to get these things out. So it may or may not be time you have. And as a primary firearm, you definitely would not want to use an ankle holster, I wouldn't think, unless you have a really weird situation. But as a backup firearm, it's not a bad choice. So. Next up is the belly holster, a belly band essentially. It's that large fabric band. It goes around your belly, allows you to carry the firearm on your torso. The advantage to this is it is up on your torso. It's not around a belt. You have that open to you. The other advantage there is that you can rotate this around and put it in a place where it doesn't print, and it's fairly accessible to you.
Oh, this is bad. This is really tight on me. It's my wife's, okay?
Yep. Last up, which we can't teach, but maybe your wife wants to come out, is they do make a bra holster. He's about to punch me. They do make a bra holster. I don't have experience with it, unfortunately. Meaning that in a professional way, we haven't had a student come out and have to use it or demonstrate it. But
what you need is a bro or a man's-ear.
A man's ear holster. Yep.
No, yeah, they do. It is a legitimate thing. They
Yep.
do make bra holsters for females.
Yep.
I don't think they make it for males, but
Yeah.
It's definitely it's in the contention. If you're in a situation or your daily carry needs dictate it, it's something to look at.
Yeah. These things are difficult to get to. You have to remove a significant portion of your clothing to get up at it.
Yeah, how far do we want to go with this one? Huh? That's always a question.
It needs to be said. And you need to be able to you need to be aware of what you're going to be exposing to be able to get at this. But the bottom line is this type of pistol works because you're already printing in that area for other reasons, shall we say. So this just uses that space that's available to very discreetly carry your firearm.
All right, so we talked about holsters. Now I want to talk a little bit about retention levels. There are 3 levels of retention. Level 1, level 2, level 3, and we're going to go through and concentrate mostly on level 1 and 2, and we'll talk about 3 at the end here. But level 1, an example of that would be this inside the waistband holster. Okay, the belt is going to be on the outside of the holster while your body is going to be on the inside, and it's the pressure between the two that's going to keep the pistol snug and in place. Now you will note, however, that if I turn this upside down, the pistol will fall out. Okay, the only thing keeping it in place is the pressure between the belt and the body. If I were to switch up and use this type of holster, which would be a level 2, because it has a snap, okay, place. Obviously, the snap keeps the pistol in place, and that's the ideal situation. You don't want your pistol falling out of your holster. But the inside the waistband, the level 1 is still very viable and very good to use. It's good for concealment purposes. Additionally, if you were to get this type of holster here is a Kydex, again another inside the waistband holster. However, this one is form fitted, and it not only uses the pressure of the body and the belt, but there is actual tension on the pistol. So much so that, shake it here. Whoop, if you shake it vigorously, it will come out. But just holding it upside down, it's not going to fall out. Okay, so that tension does keep the pistol in place. It helps and keep it where it needs to be.
A lot of these have tension screws on them as well, so that you can adjust that tension for what's right for you. A lot of people like them fairly tight because they're moving around a lot. They want that firearm to stay secured in there. A lot of people like it a little bit looser, makes it easier to pull. It depends on how hard you're going to be able to yank that firearm from the holster to be able to get out on the target. That can affect your tension level.
This particular paddle holster here has two different types of retention systems. One, again, is the tension screw right here. You adjust it with an Allen wrench to increase or decrease the pressure, and the thumb button here that actuates and allows you to release the pistol. This one, again, shaking vigorously, it's not going to come out because there is actual mechanism inside the holster that is locking onto the pistol. Okay, until the button is pressed, the pistol will not come out. All right. There are other types of retention out on the market. I want to show you this SIG hard plastic holster here, and I have a hard time trying to categorize where this falls, level 1, level 2, because at first glance you might think it has a level 2 because it's got the form-fitted plastic and there's a button here that you actuate to pull the pistol out. However, there is nothing else. If you recall from earlier pictures we had of this holster, it's just a straight mold. There's no locking mechanism. You can't have a tension screw on this. The pistol falls into place and it locks. It does retain the pistol, of course, which is good, but this wouldn't be technically considered a level 2.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about level 3, that's something you're going to encounter more in law enforcement, or if you're a security professional and you're wearing a duty belt. These level 3 holsters have several different types of safeties on them to retain the pistol, both physical brakes and the molding of the actual leather or the plastic, hard plastic or Kydex that holds the pistol in place will have various locks. When the pistol goes into the holster, it locks in place, and you have to learn a technique in order to draw the pistol. You're probably not going to see a level 3 concealed carry rig, and I would probably advise against something that complex if you're going to for concealed purposes. You want something that you can present quickly and effectively, and that's where level 1, level 2 would be around that.
Correct. Yeah, you've already got concealability on your side. Bad guy should not know that you have it, so he should not be targeting you for it. But we are all humans, prone to make error. Things happen. So for some reason, should you actually be targeted, a level 1 holster under fabric is going to be reasonable, especially if you got some skills to retain the pistol. Level 2 definitely will hold that thing in pretty good. Going all the way to a level 3 is really outside the purview of a concealed carrier because it is concealed, and they should, that person should not be going around enforcing law where there's just like, not like a lightning rod for conflict or anything like that. We're just trying to get through our day. So it's a little bit different role when you start talking about level 3 holsters.
You're probably not going to see that in anything other than law enforcement or, again, security personnel, people whose job it is to wear a pistol. We're talking about retention levels, and I want to briefly talk about retention techniques. We're not going to be demonstrating those here, but you should, if you made the decision to carry a pistol, you should seek out someone who's going to train you on retention techniques, because if you've gone the distance, you're carrying your pistol, you're doing your best to keep it concealable, and you should know how to keep it concealed and how to keep it on your person. The last thing you want to be involved in is a fight over your gun. Okay, and if it comes down to that, you need to know how to react. So we're just wrapping up with this. And I encourage you to seek out training on how to retain your pistol. It's incumbent upon you, and it's your pistol. You need to maintain control of it. Yep. All right. I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. I hope it was educational for you.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll be able to do this again outside. Maybe it keeps warm here in Michigan.
Right. And not raining.
Not raining. Yeah. Well, I'm Barrage.
And I'm Don.
And we thank you for joining us. Take care.
Did you see the hawk flying through this?
I've seen hawks all over the place. It's crazy.
I was like,
awesome.
I'm like, oh wait, I'm on camera.
I'll hold my arm out and it'll land right here.
Yep.
Oh,
That's on camera.
I'll edit that out. You
KFC.
can cough, I can burp. Dude, it's praised.
Yep.
I had is like cheese and crackers since noon.
I'm glad there's a breeze.
This is the Be Real.
It is. We're gonna do a blooper thing at the end, and like Marvel does, we'll have a little cut scene for the next episode. Jazz hands. You watch Archer. Good. Jazz hands.
Smoke bomb.
Yep. Did you watch Danger Island?
I haven't watched it yet. No, I have to watch it when Kim's away because she's like, "Come on, watch that stupid show."
Yeah. Yeah, Linda watched it for about 5 minutes. She's like, "Geez, Don." She just walked off.
I have to like put bite down on a piece of leather when she's in bed and I'm watching it. I'd be laughing so hard.
Timmy saw a cartoon and he's like, "Daddy, let's watch this."
No, you don't watch this.
I know, Timmy, you're not watching Archer.
You don't watch this.
And he's like, "How old do I have to be to watch Archer?" And I'm like, "You won't be living here when you watch Archer. You will be on your own in your own home when you watch Archer."